Welcome to another episode, everyone. The BGF versus the Aryan Brotherhood, and then the Aryan Brotherhood goes to war with the Irish mob in an Oklahoma state prison. And there are many deaths and much bloodshed, part one. Why did the Aryan Brotherhood even start? Well, because the BGF were bringing it to these individuals in prison in California, and they had to form a group to protect themselves. So they came up with the AB, the Aryan Brotherhood. And then them and the BGF had immense bloodshed and went to war. But then again, the Aryan Brotherhood spread out and went to Oklahoma and got into a war with the Irish mob. And again, much bloodshed ensued. This is part one.
The Aryan Brotherhood is one of the most terrifying organizations out there. These guys are absolutely ruthless, and over the years they have been responsible for thousands of bodies. From the prison yards to the streets, everywhere they go, they bring destruction. They're highly respected, well-organized, and extremely powerful, and are currently in a deadly beef with another Caucasian gang called the Irish Mob. Before getting into the crazy back and forth that has costed countless young men their life, let's get into some history about the Aryan Brotherhood. On January 16th in the year 1967, in the beautiful state of California, at San Quentin Prison, one man would change prison politics forever. And that influential young man's name was George Jackson. George Jackson and his buddy W.L. Nolan started the infamous prison gang Black Guerrilla Family, also known as BGF. Early on, these guys used to be the main enemies of the Aryan Brotherhood. This gang to this day is still around and causing terror in the streets and jails of Baltimore. Here is an example of what they are doing today.
The Black Guerrilla Family is singularly the most significant threat to public safety in Baltimore for the past decade or longer.
The sweeping indictment goes straight to the core of the Black Guerrilla gang family. The highly organized gang has brought guns, drugs, and death to an already violent city.
When it comes to beef, these guys are ruthless. Whether it's in jail or in the streets, these guys are going to keep sliding until they chip every single person they're beefing with.
Federal indictment unsealed today charges 6 men associated with the gang with 6 murders, 11 shootings, and any number of attempted murders and robberies.
And from the very start, when BGF was first founded in California in the 1960s to today, where they are running the streets of Baltimore, they have always had a strict no snitching or witnessing crimes policy. It takes a truly evil and ruthless gang to chip witnesses who have nothing to do with the gang-banging lifestyle and just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
A Black Guerrilla Family gang member is sentenced to prison after admitting to killing a witness who was going to testify against a fellow BGF member.
Now let's head back to San Quentin, the birthplace of this vicious gang. Within only a couple weeks at San Quentin jail, BGF was able to grow their membership into the hundreds. After recruiting, it was time for them to flex their muscle and make a statement on the yard. So on January 16th, 1967, 4 BGF members fire up Robert Holderman with shanks and he tragically passes away. The next day, the largest riot in San Quentin history popped off. It was a bloodbath with 1,800 Black Guerrilla Family associates versus 1,000 white inmates. The beef between these two groups was up and popping, and the white boys were about to get lit up. The white boys were at a huge disadvantage in comparison to the Black Guerrilla Family. They had much less members and were terribly organized. So to give themselves a puncher's chance in this escalating bloodbath, the whites decided to form a crew. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the birth of the Aryan Brotherhood. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button before we get into one of the craziest prison bloodbaths of all time. From the very start of the Brotherhood, they decided membership was to be earned, not given. They wanted this to be an elite organization with only the strongest of men.
Yeah, and that's crazy how they formed really to protect themselves or because they were being brutalized, were whites by the BGF there in San Quentin prison in California. But now when you look at BGF compared to the Aryan Brotherhood, it's really not much of a comparison. The Aryan Brotherhood grew into an extremely violent prison gang. Still a violent prison gang that kills a lot of people. Meanwhile, the BGF are out there on the street in Baltimore. In prison, they don't really have a presence.
To survive in San Quentin, you need all the muscle you can get. You cannot afford to slip up and let the wrong guy into your organization. The next rule they established was blood in, blood out. If you try and leave, you will be 6 feet under the ground.
Help me!
The next rule is one of the most universal rules in all street organizations: no snitching. The next rule was you always had to be on point and willing to slide. There were no cowards allowed in this organization. And the last thing you have to do is take a pledge which is held sacred to the members, so out of respect I am not going to show it here. But like with all organizations, there is a lot of internal competition to be the alpha male. And in order to achieve alpha male status, you have to go up in rank, and in order to go up in rank, you have to earn stripes. And the way you earn your stripes are by putting in work. You're going to have to terrorize the jail. Even if it's not in your nature, if a higher ranking member sends you on a mission to take someone's life, you're going to have to do it. This organization is almost militant when it comes to respect and following orders.
There's thousands of members.
It's all about bullying, it's all about, just what I can take from you. And if you don't like it, well, we're just going to stab you and have you beat off the yard.
He was part of AB for nearly 10 years.
If a higher ranking member tells you to do something, you can't question it. You have to blindly follow his orders. The plus side is the more acts you commit, the higher you climb in the ranks and the more respect you're given. The highest rank is known as the commission. This was reserved for the 3 most savage members. And in order to get this position, you needed to have multiple bodies under your belt. Now that the white boys had established a well-organized gang, it was time to turn the beef up. So they made shanks and waited at the chow hall until everyone was finished eating and attacked and killed 2 high-ranking BGF members. The BGF members were fuming at the mouth with rage, and they didn't take long to get their get back. By the end of the day, they had killed 2 whites. Something had to be done to stop the escalating bloodbath in the San Quentin prison.
Yeah, these individuals were going at it, intently there in San Quentin prison, and a lot of prisons in California, when the BGF spread out through the California prison system, originating there in San Quentin with Comrade George Jackson. And they had a lot of beefs and a lot of bloodbaths and a lot of deaths, as we can see. Back and forth deaths. There were not a lot of lockdowns. And so you would kill someone and be off, never go on lockdown, or you go on lockdown and you off the same day. Of course, we all know the story about George Jackson and what ended up happening with him and his life. And that's really when things just started to go bad, period, as far as I'm concerned, with the structure of the BGF. But they had a strong presence and a strong structure at one point. But the AB has carried on and continued on with their structure, whereas the BGF essentially just fell off. It's just a bunch of gang banging and gangs there in prison as it relates to black individuals, but not enough uniformity.
So the warden decided to ship off all the AB and BGF members to different prisons, and with both rivals shipped out, they immediately noticed a change in San Quentin. The shanks, the stabbings, and terror seemed to be behind them. Sometimes in life you fix one problem and an even worse one takes its place. Both sides started using this as a way to recruit members, so now you had multiple Aryan Brotherhood sets scattered throughout the state of California, and they were causing destruction and waging war at almost all prisons they were located. The Aryan Brotherhood had established themselves as a dominating force in the prisons throughout California. If you were a white guy during this time that found yourself in a California prison, then you were forced to join the Aryan Brotherhood. Whites literally didn't have an option. It was either join the Aryan Brotherhood or join your local cemetery. They were heavily outnumbered by their rival BGF and needed all the members they could get, so during this time, as a white man, being a member in the Aryan Brotherhood was required despite what you believed in. And they needed you in tip-top shape because a battle could erupt at any moment. During this time, an estimated 9 out of every 10 whites ended up officially joining the Brotherhood. And for members that were lucky enough to get out of prison, it didn't end there. They had to continue their life of crime in the name of the Brotherhood. Once you become a sworn-in member, there's no leaving the Aryan Brotherhood. This is a lifelong commitment. During this time, the Aryan Brotherhood began to make a name for themselves on a national level because of all the destruction they were bringing to prisons throughout California. In 1969, the Aryan Brotherhood made their first splash outside of a United States prison, and they had all of the United States hating them. A young man in the Aryan Brotherhood, known for his good looks and ability to seduce women, named Bobby Marks, gets sent from his prison in Sacramento to a prison in Florida. There he becomes good buddies with a guy from Texas named Jack Twinning, and the two men begin terrorizing the prison in the name of the Brotherhood. This was a different time, and Bobby, who was in prison for a murder, ends up getting released, which ended up being a huge mistake for society. They end up blowing down for different police officers in cold blood. If you didn't know about the Brotherhood before, then you did now, and there was a nationwide hatred towards this organization. The only groups of people during this time that wasn't mad about the situation was the Aryan Brotherhood. And rather than reprehend Bobby for what he had done, the group decided to reward him by giving Bobby a higher rank within the organization. Jack lost his life during the confrontation with police, so he never got the chance to reap the rewards. Something miraculous had happened, and Bobby had started to feel bad about what he had done. And eventually he decides he no longer wants to be a member of the Brotherhood. When a high-ranking member named Thomas Silverstein finds out, he places a green light on Bobby's head. He had to hide out in protective custody for the rest of his stay. The Brotherhood will turn on their own if they believe you are not showing 100% loyalty. Throughout the 1970s, the beef between the Aryan Brotherhood and BGF continued, claiming countless lives. The Brotherhood wanted the upper hand, so they end up clicking up with another ruthless gang, La Imai, also known as the Mexican Mafia, a gang with countless
Not La Imai, La Imai, the Mexican Mafia. He's talking about the Aryan Brotherhood linked up with the Mexican Mafia. They wanted more numbers, wanted more individuals to go against the blacks who were giving them hell. They were still very new to the scene, the Aryan Brotherhood, not as structured just yet. And they were linking up with these individuals.
connects in the drug trade from California all the way out to Texas.
Mexican mafia members arrested in San Antonio. The Department of Justice says the group faces federal drug charges in connection with a drug operation here in the Alamo City. During a couple of raids throughout the city, authorities seized a total of 15 guns, 20 kilograms of methamphetamine, and cocaine. An indictment claims the suspects are responsible for distributing controlled substances from July to September 23rd of this year. The Department of Justice says the suspect's first court appearance is set for next week.
A gang with limitless power and countless connects in the police departments in the United States and Mexico that is not afraid to catch a body even if it's their own.
Mexican mafia are headed to federal prison for the rest of their lives for the murder of Balcones Heights police officer Julian Pacina. The gang members ambushed Pacina in May 2014 at a tattoo shop he co-owned. Testimony during the trial revealed Pacina had ties to the gang.
This was a legendary duo like Shaq and Kobe, and when these two gangs started hunting each other's ops out on the deck during rec hours, it created a bloodbath within prisons throughout the country. They were causing terror and destruction throughout the 1970s. They were so tight to the point that the Aryan Brotherhood sent their own member Fred Mendrin to take care of the Mexican Mafia's rival gang leader. But this was not your regular hit. Fred Castillo, who was a part of the NF, and Fred Mendrin were far from strangers. The two men had been drinking buddies and close friends out in the streets for years. They had spent significant time with each other's family and conducted lots of illegal business together. The Aryan Brotherhood was testing Fred's loyalty by making him kill his own friend he had known for years. They didn't give him any option, either kill or be killed. This was psychological warfare. And Fred ends up doing the unthinkable and sets up and kills his own buddy for the sake of the Brotherhood. This caused an all-out war over the next 10 years that claimed the lives of hundreds of men caught up in the beef between the Aryan Brotherhood and BGF. Prison during this time was like gladiator school. Everyone was fighting for their lives. You were either going to become a predator or you're going to be a victim. The only positive thing working in the Brotherhood's favor was the fact that they kept getting shipped two different.
Yeah, and we've heard this quite a few times before, that same story where these individuals had hooked up and, they were so close, the Mexican Mafia and the Aryan Brotherhood, that the Mexican Mafia allowed this individual from the Aryan Brotherhood to take out one of their own people. Normally, your own people do their own bidding, do their own business when it comes to taking the life of someone from their race. But they allowed this individual to take the life of one of their people. This is how connected these individuals are, particularly at this time in prison, the AB and La MA.
Prisons, and as a result they are able to successfully spread their gang throughout the United States. And now you had giant chapters in places like Texas and Oklahoma. And in places like Oklahoma over the next 10 years, many of the prominent members end up getting released back into society and they continue gang banging and repping the Brotherhood on the streets. Fast forward to modern times and the Aryan Brotherhood has continued their reign of terror not only in prisons but also in the streets. They are deeply involved in the criminal underworld and sale of illegal substances. They specialize in the distribution of ice.
Face tattoo of the state of Oklahoma should help them catch this Monday's most wanted suspect. They say Donald Hill, also known as Popeye, is part of the Aryan Brotherhood prison gang. He's currently on federal probation, wanted for meth trafficking violations.
You gotta get your home state tattooed on your left cheek just in case you forget where you're from. While the Aryan Brotherhood is dominant throughout the country, the chapters in Oklahoma seem to be very well organized and are making a whole lot of money. From the trailer parks to the prisons, the Aryan Brotherhood has Oklahoma on lock and nothing passes through without them knowing. In the Brotherhood, the members that are free are taking direct orders from members that are incarcerated. Even if you had just gotten out of jail after serving a 20-year sentence, if a higher-ranking member in prison calls and asks you to carry out a hit or take care of a dope deal, you're going to have to do it and risk your freedom. A prime example of how crazy the Aryan Brotherhood is out in Oklahoma is best displayed through their infamous member Chance Wilson. Chance Wilson, who was a hardcore drug user and deeply involved in selling ice, had worked his way up the ranks of the Brotherhood and had become a high-ranking member when he commits one of the most heinous, sickening crimes imaginable against his own 16-year-old sister.
And his teenage sister.
Police say 16-year-old Salita Wilson died of a drug overdose after her brother shot her up with meth multiple times. KOCO's Carla Wade is live with details. Carla?
Paul, it was more than a month ago that 16-year-old Salita Wilson was found inside this house you see her behind me in a bathtub. Today, prosecutors charged her brother with first-degree murder, saying that he shot up his own sister with meth, killing her. Now, police were called to this home on July 7th, shortly after 16-year-old Salita Wilson's father had come to the house and found his daughter dead. Police say that they spoke to two people who say they were with Salita and her brother Chance Wilson on the evening of July 6th. A witness named Christopher told police Chance had purchased meth earlier and that Salita was already high when they all met at the home. Then the witness says that he witnessed Chance shoot up Salita with 20 units of meth in her right arm. Christopher said this was the first time that Salita had ever shot up to his knowledge. Christopher told police later that Chance gave Salita more meth, and this time Christopher said Chance left and that Salita was, quote, messed up and, quote, freaking out. He says that Chance told him to put Salita in the shower and to run some water on her, but the next morning he could not get her to wake up. Now, police say that Chance Wilson mostly corroborated this story when they spoke with him in the McLean County Jail, where he's being held on other charges. Coming up with 6, we'll have reaction from the Wilson family.
Chance Wilson was convicted of stealing anhydrous ammonia, which is used to make meth back in.
So they saying that he did it on purpose, though? That they knew that, or he knew that he was going to kill his sister? I'm not so sure about that. But perhaps that's exactly what they're saying, that he did this on purpose. They charged him with first-degree murder. They have to be saying that he shot her up knowing that she was going to die. Probably gave her some bad stuff over his 16-year-old sister. This is nuts.
2003.
Although 16-year-old Salita Wilson might have had a history of drug use, she had never before used a needle when ingesting ice. In a letter from the drug rehabilitation facility that treated her, it claims that she had been clean for an entire week prior to her death. After shooting up his own biological sister with a ridiculously high amount of ice, Salita starts freaking out and getting paranoid about the fact that she might overdose. Instead of calling the ambulance, he places her in a shower and leaves the water on, and only a couple hours later, their father comes home and finds his 16-year-old daughter tragically passed away. So Chance is charged with murder and placed in jail, but his criminal activities don't stop there.
More than 400 years in custody?
Guys, that's right. That's what we're hearing from the DOJ. Investigators say the leader, Chance Wilson, a.k.a. Wolfhead, has been the mastermind behind the Aryan Brotherhood in Oklahoma State prison systems for years. With the help of cell phones, Wilson relied on a network of members outside the prison to distribute. Several agencies were involved in this bust: the FBI, Homeland Security. One special agent saying in part, "The citizens of Oklahoma are safer today because of the massive amount of methamphetamine, weapons, and drug proceeds removed from our communities." Along with more prison time, law enforcement seized 62 firearms, more than 300 pounds of meth, and nearly $500,000 in drug money.
Even behind bars, Chance was still able to run a massive drug operation, which shows how powerful this organization is. And with power comes lots of enemies. And as the Aryan Brotherhood looks to fully control the drug market in Oklahoma, they find themselves in a deadly back-and-forth beef with another gang known as the Irish Mob. This is a historic gang that has been around since the 1840s. And they have always been a very prideful group of men that are willing to do anything to protect their gang. They love hanging out at Irish pubs, getting drunk and drinking Jameson, and are always representing their gang to the fullest in the form of 4-leaf clover tattoos. If you see a bunch of guys wearing Celtic's colors at an Irish pub outside of Boston covered in 4-leaf clover tattoos, then chances are these gentlemen are part of the Irish Mob. You can find chapters of this gang scattered throughout the United States, but they appear to be most active in Oklahoma, where they are deeply involved in the criminal underworld.
125 Oklahoma inmates convicted for drug trafficking while behind bars and being tied to the Irish Mob. And their leader, investigators say it is David Postel, the brother of Gilbert Postel, who was just put to death by the state of Oklahoma for several murders. David Postel also sentenced to life in prison for his roles in those murders. Over the past 5 years, several law enforcement agencies performed wiretaps on phones that inmates smuggled into prison, resulting in more than 500 pounds of meth and heroin seized, hundreds of firearms, and almost $600,000 in drug transactions. Of the 125 defendants, Postel was the only one to receive a life sentence, another one. The others will serve a collective 1,350 years behind bars.
As you can see, the Irish Mob in Oklahoma has a lot of...
Damn, they got a lot going on out there in Oklahoma. So the Irish Mob, they have, migrated all around the country. You can see them everywhere. When he said Celtics, he means Celtics. You see these individuals with this green on, you see the 4-leaf clover tattoo. Then you know who you're dealing with for the most part. Everyone has their own colors in these gangs, or something that symbolizes what gang that they're from. So these individuals, as we can see, the Aryan Brotherhood is deep. They're getting into it. They are committing a lot of crime, a lot of murders, and they are involved in the underworld. They're making a lot of money. But they're also taking individuals out. You see that those individuals that killed 4 police officers, this was what really put them on the map and had them public enemy number 1 for some time. And then you have the Irish Mob, who was really known on the street more than prison for putting in work, being dangerous and violent individuals and taking lives. And these two gangs end up clashing. And then a bloodbath ensues right there in prison after these two end up clashing, which we'll get into now in part 2, the bloodbath that ensues. So we just got some history on the AB, on the Aryan Brotherhood, how they started, why they started, and some of the wars and beefs that they had with the Black Guerrilla family. Now, we're learning a little bit about the Irish Mob and where they originate from and what their structure is all about. And then these two clash inside of prison. As we can see, 2 white gangs, the Aryan Brotherhood, they are some strong individuals. I mean, I don't care. They have been around since the 60s, as we just saw. And we see why they gang originated, because the BGF was causing a lot of those individuals hell. But now the Aryan Brotherhood is everywhere, structured, and will kill you. And the BGF, not so much. They out there on the street, and it's not the same. But we'll see what happens in part 2. I'm interested myself. I haven't seen this myself. I'm interested myself to see what happens with this war that takes place in Oklahoma prison. I just know that it was a deadly war. I just know that the Irish Mob and the AB went at it. And I don't know how vicious or dangerous the AB is, the Irish Mob, as it relates to prison and their structure. But I know the AB, personally, I know that these individuals will take you out. I know some of their structure and some of their tenets. And I've been on the prison yards with these individuals, and I've witnessed some of their demonstrations and how they comport themselves on the prison yards. And they're no nonsense. They're not that deep. So when it's just a few of them, they tend to overcompensate. They'll go overboard. And oftentimes it is an overkill. when they do get upon someone for whatever reason. So I don't know who won this war or exactly what the war was over. I guess we'll find out in part 2. But I have my suspicions on the outcome of this, but I'm sure the Irish mob is not a joke either, and that includes they're in prison. But, it's not always just black gangs or black-on-black crime. It's anyone that can get into it with anyone when you're dealing with this sort of gang culture. Your race, your ethnicity sometimes doesn't even play a factor. It's just that you're in a certain community and you're dealing with a certain culture, and the people in your community look like you. This is who you end up having animus with. And this is what happened with these 2 individuals. We'll see the outcome of that. Let me know what you think in the comments. Stay safe and stay free, people.